You're listening to Technado. Welcome back to another episode of Technado, sponsored by ACI Learning, the folks behind IT Pro. Just a reminder, you can use that code Technado30 for a discount on your IT Pro membership. I like that you started dancing because I got into a rhythm. Sponsored by ACI Learning, the folks behind IT Pro. You're getting into it. Put a little drum and bass behind that. Yeah, we'll be cooking.
It's going to be the whole episode.
That'll be the whole show. Yeah.
If I could keep that up the entire episode, that would be.
I feel like that would improve.
People would be like, "Stop trolling us."
We should put like a little music in the back, a little ambient noise in here. It would calm me a little.
Yeah.
So we have some stuff before we get into our articles today. I want to jump right into the breaking news because there's a bunch.
Okay.
that came up.
News that breaks.
And this first one, literally we're just seeing this like as of a few minutes ago. So I might miss some stuff. But there we go.
Breaking news, electric boogaloo.
Love the little. Wow, that was pretty good. That's pretty good. So you'll probably remember the name MOVEit. There was some stuff last year that went down with MOVEit.
We like to move it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like to move it.
Move it.
Yeah. Sacha Baron Cohen's version of that song is probably my favorite. So there is a new MOVEit bug, a fresh MOVEit bug, as Dark Reading
not
says.
the old MOVEit bug.
No, this is new information. You haven't gone back in time. It is under attack mere hours after disclosure. This is a high severity bug that allows attackers to authenticate to the file transfer platform as any valid user with Widowy, they can authenticate to as any valid user. Widowy. So, and it is a high severity bug. So, pretty big deal. And MOVEit, I feel like now is probably on a lot of people's radars, like bad actors' radars, because of all the stuff that happened last year.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we found out how many like high-profile clientele use MOVEit from the original MOVEit problem, right? I wonder how many of those folks stuck around and they doubled down on the MOVEit software and said, you know what, everybody can have a bad day. I mean, that was a real bad day, but I'm not a fair weather fan.
No, everybody makes mistakes.
That's right. I can forgive. And hey, listen, Daniel Lowry is a huge fan of having paths to forgiveness. Mm-hmm. But now we're working on strike 2 here.
I hope this doesn't become another LastPass situation.
Yeah. I was reading the article about what the problem was, and ultimately it's just an authentication bypass. Like it's like this little piggy built its house out of straw and sticks, and by house I mean authentication. And then the big bad wolf huffed and puffed and blew that little house all down. So that's what's going on. I don't remember. I didn't see if I got far enough into the article whether or not there's a fix. I want to say there is.
This is admin should patch the issue immediately. So it looks like there is a fix for it. But there's not a whole lot of details on the bug yet because it was just disclosed like I think yesterday or the day before.
It's very, very shortly.
Yeah, yes. Very, very recent.
Like we said, breaking news. That means it's happening almost in real time.
Almost in real time. Yeah. It's, by the time you see this, maybe you'll think it's old news. But it's breaking.
I found this MOVEit flaw.
Yeah.
And let me show you how to exploit that really quick.
There'll be another one by the time this episode goes live. But that's not all we've got for breaking news. Some good news, I guess. Apple has patched some AirPods Bluetooth vulnerability issues that could allow eavesdropping. So there's a firmware update for AirPods. So I'm not sure because I'm an AirPods enjoyer. I don't know that I've ever thought in depth about updating my AirPods because it used to be you buy a pair of headphones and it's like a wired pair of headphones and that's it.
So here's my thing with the Apple style ear business.
Yeah.
Right. Is I don't find it to be very comfortable.
No.
I don't know, maybe it's the shape of my ear or whatever the case is, but I have test driven many different styles and Apple is lowest on my list of this is comfortable to me.
I agree that the standard AirPods, like the ones that are shown here, the standard AirPods, these are not comfortable at all. These hurt my ears. The AirPods.
Why are people buying them?
I don't know.
I mean, is the quality that much better?
See, I don't think so, but I also haven't I've not spent the money on another high-end pair of headphones. Sure. The only other headphones I've used have been I got them off Amazon for $20. But I did get a pair of AirPods Pro last year, and the pod part, the earbud part, is shaped more like a Skull Candy earbud, and it fits better in my ear. So those I like, and they're comfortable. These burn.
I've got Raycons.
Oh yeah, okay.
And those
You're
are
happy
nice.
with those?
They're very comfortable. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, nothing's perfect.
Sure.
If I have the volume turned up on my phone really loudly, I don't hear very well. I was a musician for a while, and playing loud metal music in bars tends to ruin one's hearing, apparently. It was news to me until it happened.
Yeah.
I guess that was that wet blanket over my ears sensation that was occurring after every jam. Should have been an indication, but hey, what do I know? I'm an idiot. So I tend to turn the volume up very loudly.
That's fair.
So I can hear things, but I will get some weird, almost feedback loop when I do that. So I have to find that sweet spot on the volume. Otherwise, I get that. It's just like, yeah. And you're like,
it's annoying.
Yeah, so bad.
It's grating.
Yeah, but it happens with just about every set.
I do like the noise canceling on the AirPods Pro. It's really nice, especially like in our office is like an open floor plan. It gets loud sometimes, and I'm trying to work, so I put my music on, put the noise canceling on. I'm cooking. It's great. So anyway, there's a firmware update.
I'm yelling at her like, Sophia.
It does happen sometimes. I look up and he's like poking his head over.
She's just beating out, man.
It's like, are you good? Like, you having a war flashback? What's going on over there? I thought you were
having a seizure. I was getting my wallet out.
I get focused. I get zoned in. So there's a firmware update for AirPods. So just so you know, if you're an AirPods user like I am.
Bluetooth vulnerabilities be damned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was like an eavesdropping thing. So I don't want people eavesdropping on on the kind of music and stuff I listen to. You don't need to know that information about me. Also in Apple news, the second beta of iOS 18 was released yesterday or the day before, I guess. So if you are part of Apple's special little club that gets early access to that stuff, then you'll be able to use it. Even if I was part of the special little club, I wouldn't be able to use it because I have an iPhone 15, but we talked about that last week, so I'll shut up about that. I'm still a little salty.
Oh, okay.
I'm still a little irritable.
A little bitter.
A little bitter, just a little bit. In more scary, I guess, would be the choice word, breaking news. I showed this to Daniel. He said we need to throw that one in there. This smiling robot face made of living skin is absolute nightmare fuel. I would agree.
Yes, 100% distilled nightmare fuel. This is 151 right here. And, when it comes to nightmare fuel.
And some of the stuff that they say, it gives a little gif of it shows it moving here. So you can see it smiling, and isn't that just wonderful?
It looks like fried bologna with eyes. It's so disturbing.
It's a little shinier than fried bologna.
It is a little shinier. It's like wet fried bologna.
It's fried bologna that just got like a skin treatment, like a facial at a spa.
Is it Botox?
Yeah. It got buccal fat removal, and it's like...
What the actual hell? The first thing, and you can back me up on this, I did not read this article, and I was like, this is Terminator.
Yep.
Right? They talked about how in Terminator 1, there was like, oh, we could spot those rubber skin bastards so easily. You could easily just spot them a mile away. But now they've got realistic skin, bad breath, and body odor and whatnot. And then what does the article say?
That is, in fact, exactly what a Terminator 2100 model has. But not just infiltrating the past to destroy humanity's future. Skin-covered robots could do all kinds of useful stuff. So they do clarify.
Like subjugate humans.
Yeah. It's got multiple uses. And it says cultured skin can heal itself and carry biological sensors like our own to provide sensitive touch. And I don't know that I want a robot to have sensitive touch, but I guess there's implications for medical stuff. A little scary.
This is not good.
A little scary.
On any, like, if you're making, skin for people.
Yeah.
To like, you had bad burns and things of that nature. And, we're coming up with this new skin technology. It's going to be great. Yes. All for it. Why do we need skinned up robots? That seems beyond me. I mean, maybe there's a legitimate, it's not like I sit around going, how could I use human skin on a robot in an effective and useful way? It's not the thing that kind of crosses my mind daily. So if there is a legit reason, and I guess they try to throw some out there in this article, I find them dubious at this point.
You were turning into Buffalo Bill Gates there for a second. How can I use skin on my robot?
Use skin.
That's a little scary.
Buffalo Bill Gates. I'm going to give you some props.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That was creative.
I wish we had an applause sound effect. It would boost my confidence so much.
Have you tried Windows? I'd try Windows. It's getting weird. Let's move on.
That was pretty good. That's all we had for the super breaking stuff. There's some other stuff that came up. Toys R Us did like the first completely AI generated commercial that was also scary to look at. So
Toys R Us did?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, cool.
Which is weird because I thought they were dead. I thought Toys R Us was like gone, and they're not.
I live in Ocala. That's not like a big secret.
Ocala.
Yeah, and we have a Toys R Us inside the Macy's at the mall. Yeah.
I didn't think they were still kicking. I thought they were.
I think they became kind of like much smaller, obviously. They're not huge stores anymore, but there's like not as small as a kiosk, but a department in a store.
That's Toys R Us.
With Macy's. is Toys R Us. So I take my kids there and they love it.
Interesting. Okay.
All sorts of toys to play with. They're like, let's go to the toys. I'm like, heck yeah, let's go to the toys. This is.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That gives me a little bit of hope.
Amazon hasn't killed everything.
Yeah, I'm glad they're still kicking somewhat. Jeffrey Giraffe is still. He's still vibing
legit.
down there.
There's like a bench with Jeffrey Giraffe. You can sit with him.
He's hiding out, no doubt.
Yeah,
he's
great.
in witness protection. He's hiding out.
That's not a joke. He's a legit bench in that.
Yeah, I believe you. It's like a little statue of him.
Mm-hmm.
You can sit and take a picture with him.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's like the Target dog, where you just get to sit and take a picture with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of refugees and hiding in the witness protection program and all that stuff, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange was released in a stunning deal with U.S. That's not my words. That's the words of GB hackers.
Yeah, this is their words,
stunning
not yours.
Deal. Yeah, sounds like I'm on HSN. Only $14.99 is a stunning deal. So he was released from prison after reaching a deal with the U.S. government. This was announced earlier this week. And it ends the long-standing legal battle between him and the authorities. So he
that's no joke. He's been in like hot water about this for a hot minute.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've heard that name come up in like current conversation, and have any updates on this. Because he was
listened
arrested.
to different podcasts about like privacy and that kind of stuff when it comes to government. So
sure,
WikiLeaks comes up and Julian Assange's names come up in
I guess
regular conversation.
I guess yeah, just in mainstream news and stuff. I haven't seen a lot about it recently because he was arrested 4 or 5 years ago.
Because nothing's been going on with him for the last few years. Honestly, I think the last time his name came up in kind of regular news cycles, I think was as Trump was leaving office. They were like, who's Trump going to pardon? Is he going to pardon Julian Assange?
That's right.
That kind of
That's right. Okay, I see. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Well, under the terms of this deal, he's agreed to plead guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, and that carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. But to my understanding, previously, before he came to this deal and all this stuff, he was facing like upwards of 100 years. In theory, like his sentencing.
They wanted to put him under the prison. Right? They wanted to bury his tail.
175 years. It could have carried a sentence up to 175 years in prison. So now that he's reached this deal, he'll be released from prison immediately.
Why do they give stupid, lengthy sentences like that? Why not just go life expectancy? Life, just your life.
Yeah, that's a good point.
At that point,
I guess for some stuff, like if you're guilty of multiple counts of something, it'll be like, oh, each charge has this many years and you serve them consecutively. So maybe it's just like so that they can say, hey, look, there's a monetary, if it was just 1 charge, you'd be serving 20 years, but it's 5 charges, so you're serving 100. So that people can't say, well, you can't just sentence me to life in prison. That's not fair. Like, I don't know.
Why not? We do it with other stuff.
Maybe he lives to be 170.
You murder somebody, I can just go life in prison. Bam, it's on the table, baby.
Maybe he's like Adam and Eve. He lives to be like 600 or whatever.
He's Methuselah. Methuselah Assange.
So then it's not a life sentence for him. You just never know. But you're right. It's
pre-diluvian.
it does seem a little like, why not just call it what it is?
Yeah.
But for him, it's not anymore. He's not going to be serving that 175 years. He has been released.
Getting out.
He'll be allowed to return to his home in London. So just figure we would mention that because that was a pretty big thing to happen.
It's a big story,
It's a big story. There's a lot of opinions on it, but those are the facts. That's what happened. And,
no printer, just facts.
No
right?
printer. That was wow. You're learning. You're learning.
Picking it up.
I heard Ronnie the other day say "no cap." I was like, that is interesting. People in this office are picking up the slang. And
so I looked up the whole cap thing.
Yeah.
And that is actually a slang term from like the 20s.
Huh? Really?
Yeah. That just kind of got repicked up.
Like saying
in these 20s.
Like when
maybe I misread the article and they meant the 2020s and not the 1920s. But yeah, from what I was understanding is that it was like an older term to say things meant they were false.
As early as the 1900s, to cap meant to brag, exaggerate, or lie about something.
There you go. And so it's just kind of made a resurgence.
Yeah, so if you're saying no cap, it means like, I'm not lying, I'm not bragging.
All things old are new again.
There
it is.
It was only a matter of time before that came back around. Thank you for that etymology lesson, Daniel. Or that, what would that be?
I don't know.
It's not really etymology, is it?
No, it's more like
language history. I don't know.
Interesting.
I'll figure it out later. Well, anyway, that was a little bonus.
If you know what that is, put it in the comments.
Let us know. So that was that was kind of the first big thing this week. Another name that has come up in the past, SolarWinds, is having another issue here. Threat actors are actively exploiting SolarWinds Serv-U Bug, and I'm not sure how severe this is, like what the ranking that they've given it was. Maybe you can enlighten me a little bit.
Well, I'm sorry, what was your...
It was the SolarWinds Serv-U Bug. I didn't know if it had like a what's the word?
CVSS score?
Yeah, like a score.
A score? If it has a CVE, it most likely has a CVSS.
Okay.
So you can just kind of highlight that and slap that in your
see if I can
favorite
find
browser. I'm going to go with, let's see, it says high severity. So that's going to tell us it's going to be like 8.
Okay.
9, you know,
Okay.
yeah. Somewhere in there.
Base score 7.5 according
7.5?
to...
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
that's
I
still,
figured it was around an 8. Yeah.
still pretty high.
Still pretty good.
Mhm.
So let's see here. This is Serv-U, the worst name for software ever. Serv-U, buddy. Yeah, you go get some SolarWinds, Serv-U too. Yeah, right. That's every time I see this, that is what I pick up in my mind. But we got some proof of concept code that's available out there. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go to the interwebs and I'm going to paste that in and type in POC and see what we get. So we can actually look this up. Look at old Brave's AI is telling us, yes, there is.
Oh, does Brave have one too now?
Well, yeah, Brave's got AI.
Oh, lovely.
That gives you the search results first. But I believe there's GitHub's. Yeah, big box. So bada bing, we go here. There you go. There's that code. Here's the README for it and an overview. And here's kind of what it looks like running. So you just run old Python. Gotta love Python. And there's the CVE. Give it the target list. And it just starts kind of cranking through. And this is a scanner for this specific vulnerability. It's not that difficult. It's, if I'm not mistaken, this is let's go back here. So what are they exploiting here? Recently discovered vulnerability tracked as this for the Serv-U software. Directory traversal issue. So if you're not familiar with directory traversal issues, they're kind of fun time there. Basically, your web application is looking for a file on the backside of things, right?
Okay.
Oh, I need to read in from some file. Okay, well, here's the file names of what you're looking for. But if you allow me as an end user, someone on the other end through my browser or other means to be able to manipulate the file that it's looking for. And so, oh yeah, take out randomconfig.txt and put in Etsy password, Etsy shadow. If I know where specific configuration files are for access to things like databases, and I know that inside those files, you set things like usernames and passwords for said access for the web application to be able to do, well, now I've got a username and password. I've got some back-end information. I can start pilfering the pockets of any good sensitive info using what's called local file inclusion. You got local file inclusions where I'm reading files that are on the machine itself, the server. I've got remote file inclusions where I can tell it, hey, reach out to a different area through HTTP or whatever and pull it on in. But that's what's happening here. And now you can use that. And they said that Gray Noise saw a huge increase in activity. It said they reported that threat actors are actively exploiting a publicly available proof of concept code. It said it went on for like 4 hours. They saw some hands-on keyboard. There it is right there. Gray Noise researchers started observing exploitation attempts for this issue over the weekend, relying on a publicly available POC. And let's see here. Where was it about we see people actively experimenting with this vulnerability, perhaps even a human with a keyboard. So they're watching this happen. The route between this vulnerability and RCE is tricky. So we'll be curious to see what people attempt. So they're kind of watching what's going on to figure out how can they parlay this into a remote code execution. So, and sometimes you can do that. You can say, oh, if I have access to certain X, Y, or Z files, would I be able to chain that into some other, or to more devious means, into making the server do things that it shouldn't do?
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. The fact that this is back in the business. Old, I say SolarWinds, right? SolarWinds is not like bad
press. It's been a little bit,
yeah,
since we've heard that name, but yeah, usually it's like, oh, poor SolarWinds. It's something going on. Something's going wrong.
It's supply chain attacks is what we worry about with SolarWinds because they're used by the government. And
I just feel bad that every
organization,
like same with MOVEit, every time their name comes up, it's like something went wrong.
You're like,
oh no,
here we go. Yeah. There we go.
Poor MOVEit, poor SolarWinds.
Yeah.
I feel for him. When you said it's tricky, I've got a song in my head now.
It's tricky to rock a rhyme.
Rock a rhyme this right on time.
It's tricky.
It's tricky. We'll move on to our next one.
Penn and Teller.
Huh?
They're in the video, the music.
Are they
video.
actually?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
They're like street hustlers doing 3-card money. and they're ripping
They
everybody
made,
off.
they made it like a cameo.
Yeah, I believe that was
Interesting.
that video, right?
I
Yeah.
did not know that. I don't know. I never watched the video.
It's been a while.
I've heard the song, but I kind of forget.
Be thinking of
sometimes.
another Run DMC song and just conflating.
I'm glad you educate me on that stuff. There's been like several songs that I had no idea existed or I'd never seen like the music video for, the pop music one.
Yeah.
And then Daniel shows it to me. I'm like, this is my new favorite thing.
Yeah.
I get to learn something new every week here in this studio.
I'm a cultured man, damn it.
You've been here longer than I have. You've had more time. You got to give me some time. I'll get there eventually.
You'll get there. That's right. One day you'll be teaching the kids.
One day. I'll
That's
be
right.
informing them, yeah. Well, we talked a little bit earlier about Apple having that firmware update for their AirPods, and that's not the only Apple news that came out this week. This stuff is not as positive. Apple becomes the first tech company charged with violating the EU's Digital Markets Act rules. And also, they have said...
Sounds like a pile of suck.
It did, yeah, for Apple, I'm sure
Yeah,
it is,
for them.
yeah. And in a separate issue that they're having with the EU and the DMA right now, they've also said the EU's not going to, people that are in the EU are not going to be able to enjoy the Apple Intelligence features, not because they're iPhone 15 users, but because they're afraid that they're going to have to basically like compromise the quality of their Apple Intelligence features in order to comply with some of the standards in the DMA. So they're like, no, you don't get them yet. We're going to hold off. But so they're having all kinds of issues with the EU this week. But Apple was charged with violating the DMA rules. And it has to do with the fact that the EU is saying the App Store rules don't allow app developers to communicate freely with their users. And that's in breach of the DMA. So they've been charged. Apple is suffering the consequences, I guess.
Well, I guess if you want to play in the EU space, then you got to play by the EU rules.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what's up. I mean, if the EU has the right to make their rules and their regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And Apple, if they want to sell products in that area, they got to get the blessing.
And I'm not
conforming.
Yeah. If you want to be in that space, then you got to follow the rules.
I guess the question is the EU overreaching? Are they making too restrictive? That is violating the rights of Apple? I don't know. I haven't read it. To form an opinion, it doesn't seem like, because they seem to be like antitrust laws that they're dipping into.
Yeah.
They're trying to increase competition.
Yes.
Because in a capitalist society, competition is good for your consumers.
Sure.
So if I make widgets and you make widgets, but I make widgets and everybody uses my widgets, it makes it difficult for you who wants to come in and work in that space and try to make a living in that to compete, because I am so much more powerful than you as the big widget maker.
Yeah.
Right. And if I'm just making what every product kind of comes with my widgets, that is unfair. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying whether it is or fair or not. What I'm saying is that's the idea.
Yeah. Monopoly bad.
Right. Yeah. We monopoly bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is not the first time we've seen big tech companies go down this road. And
sure. Mm-hmm.
Obviously they don't like it.
Yeah.
And I remember when Microsoft really over the Internet Explorer thing, they were getting hit with anti-competition, antitrust laws.
Because you had to use the Internet Explorer browser?
So what they were doing is they were bundling Internet Explorer with Windows. And then people were saying, well, that's not fair. Netscape and others can't compete. It's already installed. So that's not a fair thing. You should make it to where everybody has the option to choose one thing or another. And that seems to be what the EU is saying, is like, Apple, you're making it too difficult for other people to go to third parties.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have way too much control over the ability of the end user to even find,
right,
let alone use.
That's the argument. They're denying consumers the choice.
That's right. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
But that's the claim. That's the argument that they're making. And Apple has not really responded to this outlet's request for comment. I'm not surprised.
Just sent back a middle finger.
Yeah, a whole bouquet of them.
Yeah, bring it. I'm a $1 trillion company.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
They kind of can throw their weight around a little bit when you've got that kind of money and power.
Absolutely.
And I don't know exactly what, I mean, they've been charged, but I couldn't find anything on, at least in this article, on what's the punishment.
It would be what'll end up happening is, if the EU is successful, then Apple will have to like basically take their hands off the wheel of this thing so much. They will define how they should be able to do business, and some people will not like that and some people will. That's the name of the game. Opinions vary on these things.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm sure there's some objective truth to what goes on, whether or not it is violating a law or not, and whether or not that law is good. It's going to be where
the argument would be okay, whether you violated a law or not is besides the point. Is the law just in the first place? Correct. Or so I think that we'll have to see what more comes out on that. I won't go into detail here. This just came up this morning. I wanted to mention it because it seems kind of relevant.
And it's not just them though. They're saying that they're cracking down on 20 tech companies, including Apple, Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft, because the EU has deemed them to be quote unquote gatekeepers. So
that Microsoft's the one I wanted to mention. It was this morning. It said they may face a fine of up to $20 billion. Microsoft will.
If $20 billion.
That's probably why I grabbed it.
They go, ha ha. Yeah, $20 billion.
No big deal.
I've got that.
That's chump change.
Yeah.
If the commission finds Microsoft guilty of breaching antitrust laws. So, like you said, Apple's not the only company in hot water over this, but Apple and Microsoft are both pretty big players in that space. Up and coming.
The part where it talked about launching their it says that Microsoft announces plans to launch their own third-party app stores within Apple and Google's digital storefronts.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I wonder how that would work.
So this EU law would kind of force them to allow Microsoft to plant a flag inside of their enemy territory.
Huh.
Right?
Interesting.
That is a little odd to me.
That's new territory. That's I wonder how that'll work out, or if that will pan out at all, if they'll be allowed to do that. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I'll have to read these laws. I'm sure it'll be fun.
Yeah. I think we're mostly done bashing on Apple for the day, or airing their dirty laundry.
That's more.
Airing the dirty laundry would be a better comparison. This next one says hackers use Windows cross-site scripting flaw to execute arbitrary command in MMC console. So it's a new infection technique called Grim Resource, as opposed to Grim Reaper, I guess.
I would have
fun.
It's just a play on words there. Yeah, it is kind of fun. Right? It doesn't bring up images of fuzzy bunnies and unicorns and rainbows. That's for sure.
It's creative.
Well, what I thought was interesting about this is a lot of people feel cross-site scripting is kind of a, what you can do? Cross-site scripting is cross-site scripting. We got to take care of it, but it's not really that important.
Right.
This is actually kind of sophisticated in its attack vector. So if we look at the article here, it says leveraging a new infection technique called Grim Resource that exploits MSC files. I don't know if you're familiar with MSC files, but there you go. MSC files are the Microsoft. So if you're running Windows and you hit the Windows key or whatever, and it brings up the search, type in MMC.
Okay.
Right, and that brings up the Microsoft Management Console.
I see. Okay.
Right, you getting that? So you can create different versions. You can customize these MMCs and create your own. And MSC files, I think, are the way in which they get saved.
Okay.
You got something.msc.
Okay.
These MSC files. So this is by crafting malicious MSC files, they can achieve full code execution within the context of mme.exe or mmc.exe. So that's not good. And that's really interesting. And it says this is upon a user click. So basically, they're crafting this new attack, offering some advantages over traditional. So if I sent you an email that had an MMC in it and you ran it, it does not get certain security, right? That you would normally get. So you're not running any macros. So no macro thing pops up. It's not a macro thing. So there's no security macro warning.
Right.
Boom. Okay. One problem solved. And it sees it as a low security warning anyway. So the security warnings that you may or may not get are going to be low. They're not going to be very warning, warning, bad things happening. You're going to be like, hey, what's that? You sure about that? Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, okay, cool. It's kind of that idea.
Okay.
Right? Other than that, there's a lot of much more technical aspects to this. I think that's where you were kind of
I'm reading it, I'm like,
the hell is going on here?
Yeah. Even the MMC stuff is new to me. So this is all the rest of this is definitely a little beyond my scope.
Yeah, this was just a very interesting attack vector in my estimation.
It did say, it's leveraging a flaw or a vulnerability, right? So it's still unpatched, right? There's no it says it exploits an unpatched cross-site scripting vulnerability There's no fix for it.
Correct.
It's
So
still-
there's a lot of moving parts in this. Don't think this is some like, oh, alert,
Right.
No script tag alert. It kind of takes advantage of the way that that you work with this kind of moving into JavaScript where it's executing JavaScript.
Okay.
Right. So there's this apds.dll. DLL is it direct link library?
That sounds right.
I think that's right. I'm bad with acronyms. So
DLL,
forgive me.
dynamic link library.
Dynamic link library. Thank you.
You're close. 2 out of 3.
Oh yeah. So just basically software that you need to tell things how to do stuff. So it utilizes that to kind of grab this. It does some obfuscation. Like I said, this is a very sophisticated attack chain that ultimately gets to this .NET to JScript functionality. And that's what it's abusing. And that's where you can get into the whole JavaScript cross-site scripting, allowing the cross-site scripting attack to execute. It takes this weird backdoor path by doing a DLL hijack. And I think I even looked this up. There's proof of concept code that was out there, if I'm not mistaken. Was I able to look this up? Yeah, I think I was. That kind of shows you how this goes. Basically, you compile the DLL necessary, and you fire and forget.
Huh.
It's handling all that, and once someone clicks on that via as a download or whatever, and a link, or whatever the case is, as an attachment in an email, they click on it. Once you get like past the low level security warning, it's fire and forget.
It's Jover.
Yeah. So just be on the lookout for that. It just kind of brings up the awareness of do not click links that you are getting in your email. Do not download attachments that you get in email. And if you do, you need to do them in really controlled, sandboxed environments.
Sure.
There are, I want to say there are Yara rules. So this team, Elastic Security Team, since they, I think, kind of discovered this trick, their security appliances and software can discover and detect.
Oh, that's nice.
Right. And they even have Yara rules that can be created to find the specific features of the malicious MMC console. So there are IOCs that can be utilized to create rules to discover, or if you're just using the Elastic Security Team's stuff, then you might be able to detect this as well. And I'm sure it won't be long before the other big dogs out there follow suit, but just be aware. Yeah.
And it's good to know. A lot of new terms always come up in those articles where they get more technical and kind of go into detail about how a certain attack or vulnerability, is being exploited. So
you like how what's interesting about it is you take all these very sophisticated attack methods.
Yeah.
And it all boils down to don't click shit.
Yeah.
So
how do you fix this? How do you prevent
moral
it?
of the story is stop clicking links and downloading attachments.
I feel like you should have like a flag waving behind you. Stop clicking links.
Yes.
And downloading attachments.
like I just want a rolled up newspaper, right?
Yeah.
I've told you a million times. No.
Thank you for the PSA.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that. Before we take our break here on Technado, one more thing that we wanted to get into a little bit. The Lockbit ransomware group is claiming a hack of the U.S. Federal Reserve.
They're back.
They are back. And better, worse than ever?
You can't keep a good ransomware group down.
No.
Too long.
And now it does say that they've claimed responsibility. Usually in this case, if a group is just like, we did this, but there's not a ton of concrete, yes, we have proof that this happened, usually it'd be like, we'll wait to talk about that. But because it was the U.S. Federal Reserve and the claim that they're making, it seemed like a big deal. Allegedly compromised 33 terabytes of sensitive data from the Federal Reserve. And the implication of that, like if this is true, it's scary to me.
Well, I mean, so the Lockbit, remember I was talking about the Lockbit ransomware manifesto?
Briefly,
So you remember the FBI kind of took them down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then they were
yeah.
back, and then they were down, and then they were back, and they had this manifesto, or I say they, it was this specific individual is kind of like the head of Lockbit or was or is or whatever. I'm not sure. I forget the name of the Locks Up. I think it was his name. I'm not,
Probably.
Yeah, something like that. But he had claimed inside the manifesto that he had been targeted specifically by the FBI.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is a well-known fact that Lockbit attacked and ransomware Fulton County, Georgia's
Right.
systems there.
Okay. I
Right?
remember.
And if anybody's going, why does that sound familiar? Because the prosecutor in Fulton County, Georgia has gone after Donald Trump legally, criminally, and they had said, "Oh, we have those files." Lockbit, that is, said, "Oh, we have the files, and we'll release them if you don't leave us alone." And all of a sudden, Lockbit got taken down. And then, again, this should have been a tinfoil hat episode. Honestly, I whether or not they have that stuff, or that even if they did, it proves anything about anything.
Right.
I have no flipping clue. I'm not here advocating for one thing or the other.
Right, but that's what happened. They
just
claimed
delivering
they had these files.
what they have said.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they were taken down.
In that same manifesto, they did say, "I've been lazy. I've been asleep at the wheel. And apparently I need to target more federal organizations,
about that, yeah.
more government organizations." And here we are staring down the barrel of an article that says Lockbit has attacked and breached the Federal Reserve, which, if I'm not mistaken, is actually made up of private banks.
Yeah. Federal in name only.
It is federal in name only. There is a federal oversight committee that kind of watches over them, but they are not a federal entity.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right on that.
I'm mistaken.
And if this is true, if they did steal the 33 terabytes they said that they got a hold of, sensitive detail about American banking activities could represent one of the most substantial financial data breaches in history. It's the Lufthansa heist of data breaches here. Okay. The group's given the Federal Reserve 48 hours to hire a new negotiator because they said that the old one was a clinical idiot for valuing, that's their words, not mine, for valuing American banking secrecy at $50,000. So I guess they said that's the ransom they'd be willing to pay to get this information back.
You know what I love about the Technado is the conversation here is so adult.
You clinical idiot.
Yeah, don't click shit. Clinical idiots. Like, we are children.
Anytime like a threat actor or a group like this puts out some kind of a statement, it makes me laugh every time. And I know it's not funny because like, oh, they're doing bad
but
stuff.
But the absurdity of it and
the way they talk.
Right.
I'm like, this is so funny. You're a clinical idiot for valuing this at $50,000.
Right. Like we're listening to kids on the playground yelling at each other.
And even that, it's like a clinical, that's not like saying you're a doo-doo head. Like you're a clinical idiot. Yeah. That's kind of calculated.
I believe I could get a doctor in here to measure your ability to cognate. And you will fall on the scale of idiocy.
Kind of excusing their idiocy. It's not your fault. It's clinical. Yeah. This is a medical condition.
No, I'm born this way. I'm not. It's not pejorative.
You're an idiot by design. That's the implication there.
That's right.
So the Federal Reserve has not publicly confirmed it or given any details. And I guess at this stage, it doesn't necessarily surprise me that, even if this is true and this breach did occur, it doesn't surprise me that the Federal Reserve didn't come right out and say, yep, we got breached. Usually that's the way it goes, is that there's either silence on it or it's, hey, just...
Yeah, well, maybe because of the, how closely affiliated that the Federal Reserve is and in how inculcated into the federal government they are, they're kind of, and it's basically the U.S. finance system. They're just kind of keeping this on the hush hush for right now. And again, maybe they don't even know. I guess they said that they do know, right? Because they said Lockbit has said we have dealt with your people and their clinical idiots.
Your negotiator, yeah.
Send me someone else. Or start releasing,
That's
files.
And given like the whole context of everything that's happened with Lockbit before this, what you said about how they said, oh, I've been asleep at the wheel, or that specific guy said, I've been asleep at the wheel. I need to start leveraging some more attacks on these federal entities. It tracks that something like this would happen. Right. So it wouldn't surprise me if it turns out to be true. It would surprise me if it turns out to be false, if the whole thing is just a big lie. But for right now, it's still like...
If I had to put my money on the table, I would say there's some legitimacy to this.
Maybe the exact amount or the way that it was accomplished is still up in the air, but I wouldn't doubt that something's going on here. So maybe we'll have more information on that in the coming weeks. Hopefully good news.
Man, this reads like a stinking, what's his name? A Tom Clancy novel or something, right? This is crazy.
Yeah.
That this is the world we live in.
Yeah. All right.
Familiar with Tom Clancy, right? Please.
Splinter Cell?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he wrote a bunch of novels about espionage and shit like that.
Yeah. I'm more familiar with
Then they became games.
The games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew he wrote novels. But
listen, Rainbow Six, that's my jam, dog. I will play some Rainbow Six. Vegas 2. Rainbow Six Vegas 2 on Xbox 360 is one of my favorite games.
Wow.
And I do love all the Ghost Recon stuff as well. Excellent work. FPS is chef's kiss.
My brothers watch this podcast sometimes, and
Yeah.
I know they're going to be like even bigger fans of you now because that was one of their favorites.
So me
for a while.
and Tim Broom,
Yeah.
right? The OG of IT Pro TV, right back in the day
Mm-hmm.
that used to be with us. I used to go to Tim's house and he has this big theater room,
Mhm.
and we would sit there and play Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter for hours, eating pizza, drinking beer,
Oh,
and just being on a headset. I remember one of our friends, Charlie, he was remote logged in. We were playing over Xbox Live.
yeah.
And he had a bunch of friends, like his friends, but not our friends.
Sure.
He was like, "Hey, we'll get on. You're over at Tim's house. Get on with Tim." And we had a couple of friends over at Tim's, and we get online and we start playing against each other. And I hear Charlie over the headset go, "Watch out for Lowry. He's a good." And I'm like, "You mean sniper?" Yeah. Like as he was warning his team to look out for me, I sniped him. It was you couldn't have written it. It was so great.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
You guys bond over
A lot of
video
fun.
games. That's
Yeah, it was fun.
that's wholesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, killing each other digitally.
I just think that you guys we're all going to get together and play a game. Like
Yeah.
that's neat that y'all still do that. Well, I think that's going to do it for the first half
Oof.
of Technado. It's nice we get those little what's the word? What is the word for like a little personal anecdote? Those little anecdotes. It's nice to hear
A
those
little
from
person?
you. A little personal.
Oh, personal. Gotcha. Let's see. What kind of weird place did your brain
It's gonna
go?
feel like a little personal story, and I couldn't think of the word for it.
You
Anecdote.
stopped at person.
I'm going to collect myself.
Yes, that's
Three.
probably a good idea.
Drink some more of this.
Let's take 5.
Reset my brain. We'll take 5. We'll be right back with more Technado. Welcome back for more Technado. We collected ourselves over the break. I drank some more Celsius, and I'm feeling ready.
She did some push-ups.
I did.
Yeah.
I cried in the crying room.
What was that?
Yeah, I got a hold of myself, and I'm ready to power through the rest of this because we do
Yeah.
have a little bit more that we want to
I
get
don't
through.
know how you get your eyes to not be red after all that
It's-
crying.
Dude, in seriousness, like my eyelids droop on their own.
Yeah.
So my default face is like this, and I look like I hate my life. I want to kill everybody in here. And
It's
it's
going to
not-
get you a tattoo of FML.
I could be having the time of my life. I could be at Disney World riding.
This is amazing.
And it's my eyelids just but naturally. It's the half. I don't know. I'm naturally tired, I guess. But I promise, I do want to be here.
I used to have a friend that kind of had the same eyes as Jim Brewer.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Jim Brewer?
I can't visualize him.
Yeah, he was in a movie.
Jim Brewer.
Yeah, with Dave Chappelle, actually. Okay. You're getting the idea.
I see. I see. Yeah.
He cannot get pulled over without having to do a bunch of stuff.
Fair enough.
Right? You get the idea?
Yeah.
Bedroom eyes. Oh,
Don't
very
think
sleepy looking.
we'll move on.
Yeah,
That's not
funny.
what that means. we're gonna go ahead and jump into an old favorite segment. This is Deja News.
Deja News.
I do love this segment, and I do love the song. Like I said, I heard it in the wild recently for the first time, and it's a good song.
Amazing to me.
I've listened to it a
Best
handful of
song.
times since then.
Best song.
It is a catchy tune. That was Beyonce's best era, I think. That irreplaceable era. Anyway, NVIDIA loses $500 billion in the biggest short-term loss in company value of
Sucks
all
to be
recorded
you.
history. And you might remember, hence the Deja News segment, last week we talked about how NVIDIA was the most valuable public company in the world, surpassing Apple and Microsoft, but they were all right around the $300 trillion range, upwards of that, right?
You say 300 trillion?
I think so.
That's how much they're
I'm pretty
worth?
sure.
300
Let me maybe
trillion?
I'm remembering
That
wrong.
seems excessive.
Let me check. You're wrong. I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
It's 3.27 trillion. I read
Okay.
it earlier, and I skipped
was,
over.
I was about to lose my mind.
I skipped over the period, the decimal. So I just read 327. I was like,
Ooh.
dang. But it's Apple. Apple has a lot of power. So
They do.
that's the value I just looked up. Apple's at 3.27 trillion. NVIDIA right now, I wonder what their current value is because, okay,
$40.
It's at a flea market for sale.
Yeah.
3.08 trillion is where NVIDIA is currently sitting. As you can see, quite a big drop recently.
Yeah.
But they were up at the top of the heap last week and lost.
When you're at the top, there's only one place to go.
Down.
That's right.
And because they're already valued at such a high amount, 3.08 trillion, that $500 billion loss didn't really, it sounds like, oh, wow, they gotta be hurting. They're fine.
So, well, I mean, they are hurting in a way.
Sure.
Right? So their investors are not happy.
Right. Yes.
Okay? Because the value of that stock, while the money that comes in from selling graphics cards is not affected necessarily, the valuation of the company has been vastly affected. And therefore, if you had stock in the company, let's say the stock was worth $10 when you bought it, and now it's worth $1, right? You have lost money. Like if you went to sell that stock, you'd be like, ah, crap, I just lost $9. And that would be bad.
Of course.
And of course, you put that up to scale and you're like, holy shit, we lost.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
In that way, anybody that was looking to sell their NVIDIA stock lost a bunch of money.
Right. But I guess comparatively to where NVIDIA was a year and a half ago, they were valued, I guess, at the end of January 2023, their market capitalization was just below the $500 billion mark. So, a year and a half ago, this would have killed. I mean, it would have absolutely wiped them out. They would have been wiped out.
Can you imagine a world with no NVIDIA? Like you wake up and NVIDIA is a thing of the past. That is gone.
And I think even for folks that aren't super familiar with NVIDIA, like when I was in college, I got some notification on my computer at home, and it was something about the NVIDIA, some update that I needed, and NVIDIA came up, and I didn't know anything about it at the time. I was making use of its product without even realizing that I was doing it. So yeah, I think.
Who's their big competition? Is it AMD?
That sounds right.
Is AMD their big graphics card? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Christian says yes.
We're hearing it. That it's a yes on AMD being the big competition for NVIDIA.
Yeah. Intel, AMD, Qualcomm. Okay. So they've got
Intel. But Intel, did they make? So with NVIDIA, you get graphics cards that are dedicated, right? Does Intel make dedicated graphics cards, or is it all that incorporated into their, what is it, UHD?
I don't know. You may be right that it's not.
You see, I'm not a hardware guy.
Me either.
You can tell because I'm struggling.
Don.
Remember it. Yeah, this is where Don would have been super helpful. He would have told us the history. The people that invented it.
Like he was reciting some random, like off the top of his head.
Yeah.
Just off the dome.
That's right. I know we get a lot of comments of people saying, bring back Don. He's gone. Trust me.
Don hasn't lived here for
Don
years.
In this seat and not me. He's much better at this than I am. I totally agree with you.
Chuck you and keep Don is what you're saying?
Yeah, but see, he retired.
Yeah. He's living it up.
I still have a family to feed.
He's in Fiji right now. Yes. He's living it up. But yeah, he would have the scoop on that for us. Maybe we can reach out to him. See
doing my best, okay?
You're doing great. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
But that was kind of scary. I wasn't expecting that voice. But yeah, so this was a historic loss, not just for NVIDIA, but in general. It's the biggest loss in like that short of a period in recorded history. So that's the reason why this was pretty noteworthy. But it does make sense that after skyrocketing so much over the last however many weeks that it's got to balance out at some point. So
I mean, that was a big hit to break the record. I mean, if you're gonna go big, go big or go home, right?
I just want to make history.
That's right.
And that's not all we've got as far as Deja news goes this week. You might have remembered we talked a little bit about Kaspersky last week and that they were having a little bit of an issue with Apple. Apple was not, or week before last, I guess. They weren't paying out the amount for a bounty on a bug that Kaspersky reported to them. And Kaspersky was like, you got to pay up or just give it to a charity. We don't care. Well, we may have the reason why Apple didn't want to pay up. Biden has banned Kaspersky antivirus software in the U.S. over security concerns. And we did talk a little bit about this when we first brought this up, about the security implications there and how, because I guess it's a Russian company, there are some folks that are concerned that, hey, we got to be careful. So the Biden administration has said, hey, you better find an alternative by the end of September if you are using this antivirus software.
It's funny. We were kind of talking about how we see a lot of, and yes, Russia is an enemy of the United States, and you need to be concerned about them, and their hacking activities have been well documented, right? They definitely have some issues going on with that. But man, we tend to see a lot more China.
Yeah.
So it's like, you would think there would be more bans on like Chinese stuff, but maybe there's no big Chinese security firms that we're having to worry about, and that's the difference.
I guess that's true. Because I hear Kaspersky mentioned a decent amount. I don't know that there are any, security firms like that are Chinese, or like even this morning we saw something about like a Chinese and North Korean.
Chinese, they're going buck wild right now.
And I don't know that there are any companies like Kaspersky that originate in those countries. So it could be. If you
there's plenty of them. Which I do know, like Fancy Bear and all that. That's so they are a definite problem. But
sure,
because this is where it gets weird and interesting at the same time. So Kaspersky has a track record that they call out in this article, if I'm not mistaken. There's a big quote from Kaspersky about all this. They say Kaspersky is aware of the decision of the U.S. Department of Commerce by the U.S. Department of Commerce to prohibit the use of Kaspersky software. This decision does not affect the company's ability to sell and promote cyber threat intelligence offerings and or trainings in the U.S., despite proposing a system in which the security of Kaspersky products could have been independently verified and trusted by a trusted third party. Kaspersky believes that the Department of Commerce made its decision based on the present geopolitical climate and theoretical concerns, rather than on a comprehensive evaluation of the integrity of Kaspersky's products and services. Kaspersky does not engage in activities which threaten the U.S. national security, and in fact has made significant contributions with its reportings and protection from a variety of threat actors that targeted U.S. interests and allies.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this should be demonstrably true or false.
Right.
Right? Have they or have they not? I don't know. I haven't done the research, but Kaspersky's making the claim that this is like unfounded.
Right.
And not even that they were neutral. And so there was wiggle room but we have actively protected the U.S. against threats and engaged in increasing the security. So I have used Kaspersky software. I used to, so when I worked in corporate, we used semantic endpoint protection. And I think I was telling you this. Mm-hmm. I was cleaning up crap like every day. I got to go clean that up, because I would have the dashboard in front of me and I would get, these workstations have possible infection.
Right.
And then I would have to call those end users. Hey, let's take a look at what's going on. Let's run some more in-depth scans. Your computer might be kind of sluggish for a little bit because of that. And then, and then we could clean these things off. And I would have to use third-party software to get it to remove the crap that it was just able to kind of flag it, but it wasn't able to really stop it in any good way. So we started looking for a different solution. And Kaspersky was one of the ones that I tried, and it was amazing. It was awesome. Yep. It went, and so we invested in Kaspersky endpoint protection. And that was a different game, man. I went from doing like 6 a day to 6 a month. It was insane. So I was a huge fan of Kaspersky. And I think I told this story that when I came here, and I was like, oh yeah, Kaspersky is really good software. Don's like, nah, Russians.
Yeah.
Like, okay. He's like, I don't trust the Russians. And so maybe that's the same. And that's kind of what they're saying here. And the fact that the United States has decided that now they're not stopping them from. So if I was using Kaspersky software, correct me if I'm wrong, I could still use it. Correct?
So it's a ban of the antivirus software and the pushing of software updates to U.S. companies and consumers. So I think it applies to everybody here.
So I've got to find a new vendor is what they're saying.
It sounds like it.
Right?
I don't think this is just limited to like, it's just for federal agencies or anything like that. It sounds like this is a whole country kind of deal.
Hold up though. I think it says starting at midnight, ET July 20th, 2024, Kaspersky is banned from entering into any new agreements with a U.S. person of business. This includes any software or white label product from the company. At midnight, September 29th, Kaspersky or any of its agents are prohibited from distributing software and antivirus updates to customers operating its Kaspersky security network in the United States or on any person's U.S. person's system. So if I have it already, I can still use it. I just won't receive any updates. I think that's how I'm reading that.
Yeah. The part that's tripping me up is the part that says not being able to run on any U.S. person's systems, like not being able to run that at all. I'm trying to find it
but it's only after that date and time. It's if you already have it installed, you're quote unquote fine, but you won't get any updates after that date either, because updates are also banned.
But then, so then at that point, if you're not getting any updates, new threats are emerging all the time.
That is
so
correct.
It still kind of renders it not useless, but less useful.
I mean, no, it's yeah, but that less useful window starts becoming useless after a very short amount of time.
I guess what I would think that if you're going to issue a ban like this, and your primary concern and reason for doing it is that Russia has shown time and again that they can exploit Russian companies to collect and weaponize U.S. information. That's your reasoning, right?
Okay.
Why not, and maybe I'm missing something here, why not then issue a ban in general on any of this type of product coming out of Russia? It's not, because this is specifically against Kaspersky. I know Kaspersky's kind of the name that we think of when we think of a company that's operating out of Russia that does this stuff. But okay, if another one pops up, are you going to then just issue ban after ban after ban for anything?
Right.
Out of
Well,
Russia?
I mean, this all starts with the whole TikTok thing, right? Where we're banning TikTok in the U.S., but TikTok is legitimately run by the CCP.
Right.
Right. Like I say, it's run. It is controlled. If they ever wanted something to happen, the parent company of TikTok will definitely bend the knee and do exactly what the CCP says, because that's how the CCP works. And that's what it's like in communism. That's how that goes. So, and then we also can demonstrably prove, if I'm not mistaken, that TikTok's algorithm is very anti-intellectualism, and that if you're using TikTok, they don't call it TikTok in China. I've seen a lot of articles that let me put it that way. I've seen a lot of articles that make off like TikTok is in a lot of ways spying on U.S. citizens, and B, the algorithm is meant to kind of like promote frivolousness.
Right.
Okay. Stupidity and change in culture in the United States to make the United States weak and therefore more easily manipulated.
Oh.
Right. This is what I've heard. I'm not saying whether it's true or not. I'm just saying these are the things I've heard. We are definitely not friendly with the CCP, the U.S.
Right.
Right. And if the CCP is in control of TikTok, I understand what all that to say. I can understand that the U.S. government will have a vested interest in saying, we don't trust that.
Right.
Right. Whereas Kaspersky, on the other hand, again, I do not have all the facts. So if I'm
right, we got to hedge our bets. Yeah.
Based off of, I am not the end all be all, know everything, grand poobah of of everything security.
Right.
So Kaspersky does seem to have a proven track record of being very security oriented. The whole thing with Apple, we're finding flaws with your Apple iOS 0-click 0-day. Here you go. You don't even give us the money. All right, give it to a charity. Here's charity list. Go buck wild. And they get no. And now we get the government saying no, just because it seems like they have an argument that it is due to the geopolitical climate and not necessarily anything Kaspersky has ever done. If you're familiar with things that Kaspersky has done that is a legitimate concern to the U.S. interests, please put that in the comments. I want to know that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the kind of news I can use. So, man, it just goes to show you how complex this stuff is and how, wow, it can get a little crazy. I know for a fact, anyway, from using them in the past, they have a phenomenal product. I cannot disparage whether or not it's doing anything in the background, shady or hinky. I mean, I would feel like, so the U.S. government, they have what's called a trusted foundry. You've never heard of this. I saw your eyes just kind of,
I'm not familiar, no.
What? Trusted foundry. So with hardware, if the U.S. government wants to use a piece of hardware, like a switch or something like that, it has to go through what's called the trusted foundry system, where everything about that device has to be given to the government through this system, and it's vetted. And they verify there's no spying, there's no nothing, there's a blah, 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 blah. So if we use this device in our government, we know, because it's been through the ringer, that it's not doing anything that we don't want it to do. It's not, at least not that they can tell. They did their due diligence in making sure. Why can't they do it with software?
Yeah.
Right? Why don't we have a trusted foundry system? And maybe we do. I'm just not familiar with it. Where the government, like, can't other companies do reverse engineering and or have a system where, yes, we're going to disclose our source code so that you can look for any malfeasance.
Right. Yeah.
And we're
We're confident.
confident.
You're going to find nothing.
You'll find nothing.
Yeah.
And then if you do, you go, okay, Kaspersky is not something you have to worry about.
Right.
Or, there it is.
There's the proof. Yeah.
And like you said, maybe they're just worried about down the road, the Russian government making them do X, Y, or Z. I haven't heard of that happening though.
That's
not that it can't.
No, but that was like the reasoning. Well, we know that even if you don't think the Russian government's using you Kaspersky as a door to do this kind of stuff, we know in the past that they've been sneaky about stuff. So why target Kaspersky specifically instead of issuing, a ban on any of this kind of software coming out of Russia, not just Kaspersky. I don't understand why you wouldn't just make it a big broad thing instead of targeting this one company, but maybe I'm missing something.
Right. They legitimately went straight for Kaspersky.
Yeah, very targeted. And they also sanctioned 12 of their lab executives.
Subsidiary.
12 of their any of their partner companies or whatever they're also banned, but they put sanctions on some of their lab executives as well, so they can't access their assets in the U.S. They're frozen till the sanctions are lifted. So we could probably talk about that all day.
Ooh,
but
that's a whole special
that's a
very special episode.
That's a Technado special edition. So maybe we'll come back to that in the future if there's any more updates,
or when the Russians come,
or if we find any more information on it. Hey, let us know if there's something that we're missing.
Yeah.
Got a couple more we want to get through though before we wrap up this episode. Google is introducing Project Naptime for AI-powered vulnerability research. This is a fun title by itself.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this a little bit the other day. But it's called Project Naptime, I guess, because it's supposed to free up people, give AI or, LLMs responsibilities to free up.
Quote, the initiative is so named for the fact that it allows humans to, quote, take regular naps, end quote, while it assists the vulnerability research and automating variant analysis.
Oh, so it's a good thing. In theory, right?
When AI first came out, many moons ago, when AI was born, what do people do? We're going to lose our jobs, right? AI is going to take over because it can do everything automatically. And then, because I've been on panels and stuff, like panel discussions and Q&As, where that question specifically has come up.
Right.
Do I need to worry about AI ML basically doing away with my job? If I'm a pen tester, can't AI just do a lot of this? And so the answer to that is kinda. It can kinda do some of these things, but it doesn't do it either consistently, and it has a lot of false positives and errors. You would have to go back and really vet it anyway. So what ends up happening with AI and ML and deep learning and all the things that we can do with LLMs and stuff all the alphabet soup that goes along with it is it can help us automate some of our day-to-day tasks. And this is what I said from the beginning was eventually it's probably going to do away with your job, but that's down the road. Like you got some time, don't worry. What it does do in the meantime is make you better at your job.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't have to sit around and do mundane tasks that could be automated, right? That's where it shines. And that's what Project Naptime seems to be doing. It is the epitome of how we can incorporate AI to make us better at security. So I thought Project Naptime was a good thing, an interesting thing, at least on the offset. I don't know more about it than what this article talks about, but from what I can see, just from here, exactly, yes. Use AI so that I can go touch grass, de-stress, and it allows for more cognitive thinking, better thinking, and creativity. And that's where you start getting real interesting stuff and people thinking outside the box because they step away from the problem. If you've ever tried to run down a problem, coding issues, security issues, and you're trying to figure out, well, how do I tune this to make it work right? And you've been sitting there banging at a keyboard for hours on end, the more you bang at it, the less likely it is you're going to get somewhere. Yeah. You need to be able to step away. And me kind of like shoveling it over to an AI system to go, you know what, take that. I'm going to go take a walk. And I come back and it's got all this cool information, automating a lot of the stuff that I would have to have gone through anyway, freeing me up to put my CPU cycles on something more interesting or more difficult. That's a good thing. This is AI, I think.
This is what it's supposed to be for. Yeah. This is the kind of stuff that we like seeing AI used for, as opposed to creating those scary pictures. Of, like, it just every time
Will
we hear
Smith eating spaghetti.
and he's got 8 fingers on one hand.
It is so disturbing.
Or the voice emulation where it's like kind of scary sounding because it sounds just like Christian has done it with my voice before. I'm like that sound. It's messes with my head because I'm like
I wouldn't have known it wasn't you.
Yeah, I know I never said that sentence before.
Yeah,
but this is me saying it, and it messes with your head a little bit. So this is one of the instances where it's nice to see, hey, AI is not all bad. Every time we hear about it, it seems like it's scary stuff, and this is a good use of artificial intelligence, I think. So bravo to Google for this. Project Naptime is just such a fun name anyway. A couple more that we wanted to get through here. We got some more Nintendo news. It's not.
Here we go.
Well, it's not happy news, I don't think, but I'd be curious to know folks' opinions on this. The dying noise?
Yeah.
Well, if you're not familiar, Yuzu is an emulator service, and Yuzu is officially shutting down as it settles with Nintendo for $2.4 million US. So, end of the road for Yuzu, as well as Citra, and Yuzu provides support for Citra, and that's a 3DS emulator.
Yes, I love the Citra.
Yeah?
I use Citra.
Loved.
Yeah, loved being the operative word
Dead
there.
now.
Which is weird to me. So I read this article, and Yuzu, right? Like, I never used Yuzu. Was it Yuzu?
Yuzu.
It's such a weird name.
It's a Switch emulator, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's a Switch emulator. I totally get that.
Mm-hmm.
And good for Yuzu saying, hey, we realized we were dipping into Nintendo's like current profits.
Mm-hmm.
People were using Yuzu for nefarious things, and that's not what we were about.
Sure.
So it's easy. We shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
Citra, on the other hand, so they're not making 3DSs anymore, or 2DSs, correct?
I don't think so. And they're not making new games.
Last game was like 2019 for 3DS.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. As of March 27, 2023, you could no longer make purchases for the Wii U system or Nintendo 3DS system.
Right.
So they're done. Couldn't download any more free content, no more game demos.
This is where I find fault with Nintendo, personally. My opinion. I'm allowed to it.
Right, because you're not still actively making money off of the sale.
I'm not taking any money out of your pocket.
Yeah.
What do you care?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Nintendo's not creating new games for the Wii, the Wii U, the 3DS, any of those systems. Right. So I'm not hurting you by then using an emulator to play like Wii Sports or something. You know?
I'm literally not taking any money out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
This to me is where they just the game companies, man, they're overreaching.
Yeah.
Like I remember back when I had an Xbox and they were all like, can't mount an Xbox and you can't mount a PlayStation, and PlayStation sued, and I was like, hey, come to find out you didn't actually buy that hardware. You licensed the use of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like what? Huh? Okay, that's weird. It's just a computer. Why don't I own it? And like, where does that end? It seems like a slippery slope.
Yeah, where's the line?
Right.
Yeah.
We're not taking any money out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want to back up my games and be able to play them on my phone.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever, because you're not making the hardware anymore. So I got to be careful on the hardware dying. Otherwise, I don't know if you've seen the price of 3DSs lately.
Yeah, dude.
They are not cheap.
It's crazy.
Even a 2DS is like $220, $250 at this point for a 2DS.
And even like the standard, the DSi, the DS Lite, like those older models.
Those are still in the hundreds. Yeah.
Still pricey.
Yeah, that's crazy. A 3DS, what, $350?
DS Lite at Walmart is $130. Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
You're not making these consoles anymore. You've already put and okay. I don't want anybody ripping off Nintendo.
And that's on sale. Sorry, go ahead. It's $300 when it's not on sale. I'm sorry.
Jeez,
Continue.
What? That's for a DS Lite?
DS Lite, metallic rose at Walmart.
Not a 3DS.
Nope. DS Lite.
Straight up DS Lite.
Mm-hmm. Now it is metallic rose, which is it's like the rose gold of 3DS of DSs. $300, but it's on sale for $130. Anyway, that just caught me by surprise.
What's your thoughts on this? I want to get your take on this.
I was a DS enjoyer. That was probably the first like console system, whatever, that I used and owned when I was like a little kid. I played like Super Princess Peach, you know, on my DS Lite, my metallic rose DS Lite. Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had like a Wii as a family, and it's sad, you know, but I understand consoles go by the wayside, things get outdated. And it's unfortunate now that I know it's like a scarcity thing. The prices are going to go up because there's not a lot of these available, I'm sure, for purchase. They're not being made anymore. But it is kind of sad. As far as emulators go for DS games, I'm kind of disappointed that, like, I've looked for an emulator before for, like, the original Super Princess Peach, because you can't play it on any other system besides the DS. It was never made.
Yeah,
for...
Melon, I think, is a good
really?
emulator for DS.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I've never been able to find, like, an emulated version of Super
Because
Princess
I've legit emulated Super Princess Peach.
But then the fact that Nintendo obviously is pretty litigious about this stuff, I get a little...
That is an understatement.
I'm not a rule breaker by nature, so I get nervous, like, using those kind of services, especially when stuff like this happens and Nintendo comes out. Like, am I going to get in trouble for using... I'm not stealing money from Nintendo. They're not making Super Princess Peach anymore. They're not producing DS games
That's where it
anymore.
gets really gray to me.
So,
and then there's the people that have the whole gaming historian, like, where they're trying to preserve these games that are no longer being made. They're no longer available. Some of them get still available. I think you can do a lot of emulation.
Sure.
I say emulate. It's not emulation. The Switch.
Yes.
Right? So in the Switch, you can still play. And that's
certain
cool.
games, yeah.
Yeah. If those games are available in Nintendo, don't rip them off.
Yeah.
You just don't do that. If you own the hard copy of it, then I don't feel like you're ripping them off.
Right.
You purchased it. You made that payment.
Yeah.
And now I just want to be able to play that game without any degradation to that experience.
Right.
I don't see the problem with that. If you own the game, what's the problem?
Yeah.
And then for those people that are trying to preserve those games for future generations, how else are they supposed to do it? You can buy these machines that basically you stick your cartridge in and it's able to read that off into a file. And that's how this works. So,
but yeah, then
it's really interesting.
Eventually then that stuff becomes like lost media. And
Correct.
how do you get it back? You can't. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so if you don't have stuff like this, emulators to kind of keep it alive. But you're right. Switch has some options for, like, a bunch of old Game Boy games. They've got a package of them.
What's really weird to me is, remember when Nintendo came out with the NES Classic, those little minis?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How popular was that?
Yeah.
Like, those things sold out like that.
They wait in line.
It tells them that if you make it available, we will buy it. You are leaving money on the table. So there's some weird old school business practices, it seems like.
I think because Nintendo's a Japanese company, right? They're based in Japan.
Yeah.
I think there has been talk of some, like, that there are certain business practices in Japan that it dates back. It's like very traditional. And so probably you're right in that respect, that it's, look, we're going to be litigious about this. This is what our business practices dictate, but it's unfortunate. And good for Yuzu for trying to do the right thing and not support, like, piracy and stuff. But it is sad that some of these older games that aren't made anymore, you can't emulate.
Caught in the crossfire. Yeah.
We've got one more before we wrap up Technado today. I know we're running a little bit long, but we'll put the chapters in the description so you can skip through if you want and go to the stories you want to hear about. So you might have heard a little bit about some car dealerships that have been facing some issues over the last week. Disruptions at many car dealerships are continuing as CDK hack worsens. So this was earlier this week. There was a lot of updates coming out about this. I talked to my mom about it.
It was it was in every news cycle.
Yeah.
I figured, well, I guess we can't be... leave it on the table.
I guess this, because I never heard of the software provider, CDK Global.
Right. Well, unless you were a car dealer, you never would have heard of it.
Right. Because I guess it is pretty much exclusively to car dealers, and then, like, auto shops. I think, like, auto shops also use it. So
service centers, yeah.
And they're saying it could take them years to recover financially from this. Why is that?
I have no idea. Probably the way the attack went down, the ransomware, right? It was a ransomware attack?
It shut down most of their systems. And so they couldn't sell cars and car parts or some were using, like, pen and paper. They were resorting to pen and paper. But a lot of them, it's like, we always did this stuff online or virtually, and now we don't have the option to. So I guess we just won't sell stuff.
I like how it escaped them that they could go to pen and paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is this pen and papier of which you speak?
Papyrus?
I've never heard of this. Only digital for us.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's that easy to just, like, for other people, I say that easy, but it's a viable option.
Right.
How did you not just go, well, I guess we're doing it the old fashioned way? Have you ever been into a retail store and their internet is down or whatever, and they pull out that big metal slidey thing that you put your credit card on and they yeah, that is always a fun day.
I don't think I've ever seen one of those.
Really? So what they would do is this is how credit cards used to work.
Okay.
Right? When you charge something, there was no electronic mechanism to read a card. There was no magnetic stripe. That didn't work. You have a card number, expiration date, and all the information embossed on the card.
Right.
They have this thing where they take out basically carbon paper, and they stick it on there. It has a form. They put your card in a templated slot, and then they run this thing over it, which is built into the mechanism to the machine, and it makes this big, loud, like chlunk, chlunk noise.
Yeah.
Which was associated with charging it.
Okay.
Back in the day, and it would take that embossed card, and it would, through the carbon paper, make it onto your credit receipt.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it worked. And then they would have to submit those credit charges to the credit card companies, and the card companies would make. So there's a lot of time between. So credit card fraud obviously was a whole lot easier back then. But now we have electronic. You swipe it, it goes, yep, that's good. But when those systems go down,
then
how do you run the credit card? Somebody reaches behind the desk and goes, "Oh, look at this dinosaur!" Blows the dust off. And I think they still run around. They still work.
I guess I just never really thought about the history of like credit cards and stuff and how that would work before they had electronic systems for it. So history lesson.
What's weird to me is that this system doesn't run offline at all.
Yeah.
That there's not a local database that's kind of working as a middleman, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It is offline and everything's saved to the cloud. Everything is saved to the cloud. No buffer locally. It's all. You would think that I would be able to go, oh, I'm offline, go to offline mode. I don't know. That's just me. I'm weird.
Now, and this says that it was June 19th, they first announced they had to shut down a lot of their systems because they're investigating a cyber attack. But the afternoon, they said, hey, we've already started restoring systems. But then that night, they experienced another incident and had to shut down stuff again. So then it was like, I'm never going to recover financially from this.
Cue the Tiger King, right? He's just standing there smoking a cigarette. Oh, man. You got me good here, threat actors. Sons to guns. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested in seeing. Obviously, they had not plugged the hole.
Right, yes.
They had yet to figure out how the hackers had breached their system. Because as they were working on it, it was, damn it, they did it again.
Yeah.
Well, talk about getting kicked while you're down.
Yeah, like you said, they hadn't even stopped the sinking ship before, they had, there's another cannon fire. So we'll have to see what comes to be of this. Because
honestly, I threw this article on the heap.
It just was
there's not a lot of information about it, but it was it was in Security Week. It was Hacker News, GB Hackers.
It's affected a lot of people.
You name it, it was there.
And my mom was telling me that she was like reading stuff about it and how like there were, she's like in a couple mom forums, I think, on like Facebook and stuff. And so, because I used to be a student, and so she would check in and stuff. And there were moms that were like, oh, my kid tried to go and like rent a car somewhere, and even like rental agencies were affected by it. And it was to the point where she was like, screw it, I'll just get a U-Haul. And she just went and got a U-Haul and drove that instead for a few days. And
Smart.
So it is a far-reaching, it's affecting a lot of car dealerships and auto shops and things like that. So I'm glad you threw it in there because it is a pretty pertinent story, I think, right now. We'll have to see what comes to be and how long it takes them to fully recover from this. But man, quite a lot on the docket today. That was a lot.
I'm tired.
My personal favorite was learning a bit more about your gaming history. That was quite fun.
I enjoy talking about gaming. I'm glad we've started to incorporate that a little bit.
I've been playing some, like you were talking about how Switch has some of the like old games that you can still play on the Switch. And so if you have a certain level of membership of Nintendo Online, there's a bunch of Game Boy games. So I've been playing a lot of Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, the like first Mario and Luigi RPG.
Yeah.
So I'm getting excited for the one that's coming out in November. So
nice.
I'd be curious to know what kind of games y'all are playing, because we do like talking about it. We just haven't up to now, and it's a fun thing to talk about.
It is a fun thing.
And a lot of the,
it's funny. Like I think that's one of those things that we all can kind of come to the table, and everybody games in some way.
Everybody's
whether it be a board game, crossword puzzles, Sudoku, whatever the case. It doesn't matter, man. Everybody likes a good game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested in hearing what is it that forged you? What fires? What gaming fires forged you?
What kind of gamer are you? Yeah, take the quiz. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Technado. Thank you so much for sticking with us for these stories. Let us know what you want to see in the future. Leave a like and subscribe so you never miss an episode in the future. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's show, consider subscribing so you'll never miss a new episode.